What's up YouTube, Jamie the Kid 00 here, bringing you guys a game from Cardiff Regional's top 8 in a Mermail mirror match. I'm just going to say a quick thing. Sorry about the distance between the two playmats. These are recorded on really wide tables. Other than that, hopefully I'll be able to narrate it accurately and hope you enjoy. Okay, so we've started off a little late. My opponent has had the first turn. My opponent is on the Ghost Trick mat and he's set to and immediately passed turn to me. I've now drawn for my turn. I'm going to summon Abyss Pike and activate its effect, sending a marksman from my hand. There is going to be a bit of thinking delay in this, due to it being a top 8 and not a simple Swiss match. Some of our turns will take a little longer than usual to execute, so I'm hopefully going to be able to keep you guys entertained during that. I use a high roll to randomly determine which card I want to target, because I prefer to just randomly target things at the moment, and rather than leave it up to me making a silly decision. When I don't know what either of them are and I've been unable to make a read in the first turn, I just randomize it. So I sadly hit the sphere with the marksman. He flips it face up, special summoning the Lind, and the sphere is obviously not destroyed because it's no longer set at resolution of marksman. So he special summons the Lind. I'm going to attack into the Lind because it's always better to attack the Lind rather than let it blow up in the end phase. Because if you wait until the end phase, when you set a few cards, your opponent is then able to go summon Abyss Pike and then send marksman and target your face downs without fear of them being chained. So I swing into the Lind. My opponent special summons his own Abyss Pike and activates this effect, sending heavy infantry to search his deck for, I believe, a Gen X Undyne. And I'm just going to send my card to the graveyard due to infantry immediately, because there's no free information it gives him, there's nothing that it changes, just sending it there. So he's going to search out the Undyne that he reveals to me and adds to his hand. Offers the cut, and I pass it back. Well, as far as I can, really. It is a real stretch to actually cut on this table. The reason why my playmat is outstretched the whole way is so that we had a cutting surface in the middle. I hate cutting on the tables here, especially because they're really, really scratchy, really chalky. So the reason why the tables are so wide is it's a wargaming locals, so it's kind of awkward. He summons the Gen X Undyne, activates its effect, sending Tidal as the cost and adding Gen X controller to hand, which is really, really awkward for me. Because that means that there's a Leo play on the horizon now, because he has the title, and it basically makes him a free Leo, which is a really big problem in the meta right now. So he's going to swing with Undyne and Pike for a total of 2,800 damage, bringing me down to 52, and that's not somewhere I want to be. I should note that right at the start, when my opponent flipped the sphere, I actually made a misplay. I nodded, kind of acknowledging that the sphere had been flipped, and then he picked up his deck. And I realised I had the MST in hand, and I said, hang on, I've got a response, and then realised he picked up the deck, so it wasn't really much I can do. But he passes his turn after that attack, but that was a misplay. So one of those set cards is a Space Typhoon that will have been set since turn 1, so I just want you to know that that was the reason why I didn't chain it to the first sphere. So I summon the Lind from my hand. I absolutely love attacking with Lind, especially against Mermail, because I've never seen a Mermail player using Dimensional Prison, so it's a really good card to go aggressive with against them, in my opinion. Unless they go summon their own Lind and start crashing, because that can be a bad situation. But he thinks about doing something in the end phase, and in the end just takes his turn. So he kind of communicates to me that he might have a sphere, or he might have something that can be used in the end phase. So a sphere or an MST, but he opts not to use it. So he's just gonna, I believe, attack with the Abyss Pike here. Nothing much else happens, I think. Yeah, he attacks with the Pike. Put me down to, I believe, 51, because I took 28 and then 100. I'm then going to activate the effect of my Lind. Searching the deck for a copy of, I believe it's going to be one of the big Mermails, but I could be wrong. Yes, it's going to be the big old Mermail Abyss lead. I, unlike Patrick Hoban, really like the big Mermail, and everyone I played against in this the top 8 and top 4 matches were both Mermail, and they were both playing Mermail Abyss lead. And so the only Mermail player I played who didn't have lead was one who couldn't afford it. He didn't have one at the time. He was playing very budget Mermails, and then there was one who was playing Hoban's build, who of course wasn't playing the lead. So I believe my opponent is my opponent is main phase 2ing Tidal. I believe he's going to go for a play to get around my lead. No, he's going to go for the Leo play with the controller that was in hand, which is a big problem for me. So he's going to go for the Leo, which gives him the out to lead next turn. It means I have a lot of trouble getting around it, because I have almost nothing that can shut it out. For a while, I kind of examined my hand to see if I could make Dweller Gaios, which is a way to attack over it, because the Dweller makes the Gaios 33. But at this time, there was really nothing I could do to make that. I did not have the Turge I did not have the Pike Gund or Turge Gun to play to make it, so I was kind of in a bit of a tight spot at this point. So I kind of consider my options. I'm not sure if I have Darkhold in hand. I seem to remember having Darkhold at this stage. Yes. It's a card that I usually like to hold. It's a card that I really hesitated even main decking in this event, and I'm kind of glad I did main deck it. Because it gives me that out to Leo, which is a really, really big card at the moment. So I Darkhold the field, everything goes through. I'm kind of glad, I'm fine to lose the lead there, because I have the accompanying salvage, which can get me back all I need. So I add back my Marksman and Lind. Salvage was one of those cards that really surprised my opponents recently. I believe I was the only Mermail player actually using Salvage at the event, and I absolutely love the card. While it can be dead in your opening hand, the benefits it can have in the middle of the game are vastly outweighed by the possible deadness of the card. So I activate Teus, sending Marksman. I chainlink one my Marksman, roll for what the target's going to be. I roll low, so I target the far card from his deck. And then, of course, I opt to search with Teus. I now chain my MST to his other sphere, because, of course, I didn't chain the MST to the first one. So I get my search and I shut out his sphere. I search out Mermail Abyss Gund. Gund being an absolutely incredible card this format, especially after Hoban kind of blew it out the water per se and really revealed how good it was. And in this event I did choose to play 3 rather than my regular 2, just to go for those really big power plays. So I summon the Lind. I love to have a Lind on the field just for staying power. So I enter the battle phase. For a moment I pause, and that's why I spun it in my hand to see if it's okay. So I swing with the Lind, putting him down to 65, and then with the Teus, I believe, putting him to 52? No, 47, sorry. I believe it's 47. So he should be on 47 to my 51, I think. So I'm gonna then pass turn there. There's nothing much else I can do. He's gonna draw for his turn. He has a fairly large hand, I believe a hand of 6, and he has a Tidal online. So he's definitely not in a bad position at all. Which is something that really upsets me. I really wish I could be in a better position. So he summons the Pike, and to my dismay, he discards a Gund, which is really, really powerful against me. It basically means he has the Dweller play. This is when I check my grave to see if there's if he has kind of the devastating stuff to bring back, which he does. So he searches out, I believe, a copy of Marksman to neutralize my final back row. I think it's Marksman, because he can't go for Undyne anymore because he's had his one Undyne. But no, he chooses to go for Gund instead. The Abyss Gund in his grave brings back another Pike. I wasn't sure if he had Turge, so he brings back a second copy of Mermail Abyss Pike. So I'm in a pretty dire position right now. I believe he also now has enough Waters engraved for a Tidal push as well. Yep, he's going to banish 2 for that. Sorry if I sound like I'm questioning a lot of things here. I hardly remember the game because this was played, I believe, about 8 at night. This event ran on really long. In fact, the finals weren't played until about 10, half 10. So he brings back the title. So I honestly don't remember what happened. So I'm kind of narrating this as I go along. So he summons the title, overlays for Abyss Dweller, which is really, really strong against me. He's going to swing with the Abyss Dweller over my Lind, chaining the Abyss Dweller, so he does 700 damage to me. So I believe that puts me to 45? 44? And then attacks with a 3-1 Tidal over my Teus. I'm just going to stop trying to do life now because I've lost count. Hopefully I will either narrate it in using the subtitles or do something to that nature. I don't know. We'll sort something. He then sets 1 more back row and passes turn back to me. So I draw for my turn. Things are pretty awkward now, seeing as there's a 3-1 Tidal and a 2-2 Dweller. And I'm pretty strapped for resources. I've seen quite a few of my cards now, so it leaves me in a fairly awkward position. I look at my back row. I believe my back row is Squall. I have trouble picking it up there. Yeah, my back row is Abyss Squall, a card which I loved throughout the event. I reveal my targets in the form of Teus, Lead, and Lind. And thankfully my opponent does not seem to have a response. So I'm kind of happy that they resolve, because, hey, it's Return from the Different Dimension. It's a ridiculously strong card. I'm fully aware that the Lind is just going to die and go to the graveyard, but it at least gives me something. I think for a moment about what I'm going to make here, and for a brief while I do consider the Dracosac play, but I realise that he has a Tidal and a possible level 7 drop in hand, so I decided to go for the Gaios simply because of the danger of Big Eye. I'd rather not go for Dracosac and then give him a free Dracosac. So I go for the Gaios, and any play I would have made ends up the same way here, because I do consider my options for quite some time, and then elect to enter the battle phase. I believe there's so much thinking time in this. It does take me quite a while to execute my plays when I'm as tired as I was in this event. Especially considering the fact that my wake-up call on the morning of this event was my driver, the guy who was taking me down, being outside the flat and saying, "Are you awake? I'm here, I'm outside." So I literally had to climb out of bed, throw clothes on, and leave. So I was exhausted this whole event. So I eventually enter the battle phase and declare an attack on the Abyss Dweller with my Abyss Gaios, and I consider banishing it because I was like, do you have prison, the random prison? But he has Phoenix Chain. I elect to chain Gaios, which here was kind of a bad move, I guess, because the title would have been more beneficial to me in his hand. But at the same time, it does bait out the Dweller, which I really kind of needed to do. So I set one more. I consider setting one more Lind. I eventually do. And then in the end phase, I allow the other face-up Lind to die. The only problem is his title doesn't go back to hand. We have a quick debate on that, whether or not it would return to hand. We were just making sure. So the Gaios negates its effect, and it doesn't activate and does not return itself to hand, which kind of makes things worse for me because he doesn't have to pay even more cost to bring it out. So now all he has to do is accompany it with a 7, and he's going to put me in a whole world of hurt. So we're going to see what he does next. Sorry about the pauses. There's just sometimes there's no point in me actually saying anything. I really should have moved my cards up. Actually, I'm really sorry about how far apart the duel fields are, and I really hope that my narration can actually make up for that because it does. It is quite awkward to see what's going on at some points. So he's just debating whether or not he can make game at this point. I feel, and I'm fairly sure he has the resources to do so. He declares the summon of Abyss Lind, which is absolutely fine with me, and chains Torrential Tribute, which is really bad for me because the title, of course, has its effect to be able to come back. So at this point, I see that my opponent openly has game because he has the title and the Lind summon. My Lind, of course, resolves before his because he is turn player. Therefore, anything that I happen to bring out with mine will miss timing. So I end up just going for the Mermail of Teus. At this point, I'm doing two things. A, hoping he misplays and doesn't deal game damage. B, I'm actually playing on to see if I can get my opponent to reveal certain numbers of cards in his deck, like to see if he plays the Abyss Lead, which I believe I hadn't seen at this point. I'm just playing to see what cards my opponent actually has so that I can factor them in later on. So, there's no point in scooping early, because you might miss out on some vital information, because at this point I didn't know if he was playing lead, and if my opponent plays lead, I like to keep my own in, because I don't want to be outmuscled by a lead. So I now know that he still has his, that he actually plays his, and he goes for the Teus, which is revealing more free information for me by digging further into the deck. At this point, even you guys, the viewers, can easily identify that this is a game push, and there is nothing that I would be able to do to come back from this. But I'm not really going to waste much more of his time, and I'm going to scoop up just after what happens here. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you want to hear the original audio for this, please go and check the description below. I will be putting an unlisted video up with the original audio if you want to hear what was going on in the room, because I know some people seem to like that. So if you want to hear that version, please go check that out. So yeah, otherwise, I lose this game right now, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you guys with Game 2 fairly shortly. Bye bye.